Good afternoon and welcome to Lesson 4 of our Flipped Scientific Method unit. This lesson's about the parts of an experiment. We're going to learn about the parts of an experiment so that we can design our own experiment in class very soon. So before we get started, you should have out your parts of an experiment notes and fill in the blanks as we go along through the PowerPoint slide. Alright, so first we're going to talk about the characteristics of a controlled experiment. A controlled experiment just means one that's done properly and that the scientist is controlling all the variables in the experiment. So normally there are three types of variables: the independent, the dependent, and the constants. The independent variable is the factor that's changed between the experimental group and the control group, and there's only one in each experiment. So this is sometimes referred to as the variable that the scientist changes. And then we have a dependent variable, and this is the factor that's being measured or recorded as data in the experiment for both groups. And then we have constants. These are factors that are kept the same between the groups to ensure the experiment is fair. So let's do a quick little example. Say you want to test out new potting soils. So your independent variable is going to be your different potting soil. Maybe you have like a Meyer brand, a Lowe's brand, or a Menards brand potting soil. And then your dependent variable is going to be how well the plant grows. Maybe you measure how tall it gets or how many flowers it grows. And then your constants would be things that you need to keep the same, like the same amount of soil, the same amount of water, the same amount of sunlight, so the experiment is fair. Okay, so now let's talk about our groups. We have to have at least two groups in a controlled experiment. You have to have at least one experimental group and one control group. So in our example that we just did, the experimental groups would be the plant with the Menards, the plant with the Lowe's, and the plant with the Meyer brand potting soil. And then our control group, this needs to be a group that doesn't receive any special treatment, and that would be maybe like a plant grown with soil from your yard. So remember that the experimental group is the special treatment, so the special potting soils, and then the control group is the one without any special treatment, so maybe soil from your yard, and then we use that to compare against the others. So did the special potting soils make the plant grow better than the soil from our yard? Alright, so now we're going to work on an example. Let's read this together. Mrs. Butcher wanted to test her design for a new mechanical pencil. This new design had a lead that was stronger and would last longer than the average mechanical pencil. She gave half her class, 15 students, the new mechanical pencil, and the other half the old style of mechanical pencil. She had the students use the pencils until the lead was completely gone, and then record how long they used it in the table. From the data, it appeared that Mrs. Butcher's mechanical pencil did not last longer than the older style of mechanical pencil. Okay, so in this story, we got to figure out what was the independent variable, the dependent variable, my experimental group, my control group, and my constants, and what my conclusion should be. So now we're going to answer some questions. So which people are in the control group? So which students in my class were the control group? The group with the regular pencil, or the regular old pencil, or the group with the new design? And you should write the answer down on your handout. Okay, if you said the students with the old style mechanical pencils, you're correct. Alright, now let's go to the next one. What is the independent variable in my experiment? So what did I change between my two groups? Give you a few minutes, or a few seconds. And the answer is the type, style, or design of the pencil that the students use. So that was different between the two groups. Okay. Alright, next one. What is the dependent variable between the two groups? So what was I measuring in the experiment? Give you a few seconds. And the answer is how long the pencil lasted. So that's what we recorded as our data. All right, next question. What should my conclusion be? Should I use the new pencils or should I use the old pencils, or does it even matter? If you said something like the new pencil is not any better than the old pencil, then you're on track. All right. What are the constants in my experiment? So what were some of the things I needed to keep the same between the two groups? So sometimes whenever you read an example, they're not going to tell you right out what the constants were. Sometimes you have to think about it and come up with them on your own. So what were some things I should keep the same between the two groups? So some answers you could put were the same number of students for each pencil, use the pencil for the same amount of assignments, and use the same amount of lead in each type of pencil. There's probably more you could think of, but those were the three most probably obvious and easiest to come up with. So tomorrow in class we're going to start working on designing our own experiments. We're going to do some more examples of this together and take an entrance slip. So have your notes ready and filled out, and I'll see you tomorrow.